Welcome back to Mac's Garage. The last video I did was of this 97 XLT. I kind of went through disassembling the carbs and the airbox and things like that. And I found some rust and water mixture down the bottom end. So it's been soaking in, transmission fluid, but oil for the last several days since I made the last video. During that time, I also cleaned the carburetors, so they are ready to go back on. And the intake boots were falling apart, so I've got 3 new intake boots as well. So in this video, we're going to pull the fluid that's been in the crankcase back out, put the new intake boots on, put the carburetors on. I still haven't cleaned the airbox, and I don't really feel like dealing with that today. But we should be able to start this without the airbox, run it a little bit, maybe even take it around the yard. There's not very much snow, and it is a cold day, so I really should have an airbox on it, but maybe we'll take it around the yard. So that's the plan. Let's see if this thing actually runs. Alright, so now under the hood here, we've got our intake ports, 1, 2, and 3. When I pulled it apart before, I was able to see that there was some stuff down inside here that was less than good. So if I roll that up over right now, and shine a light down in there, I don't know if you can see that or not, but yeah, the redness, that is transmission fluid. The real reason I used that is because it was the cheapest oil that I had available, and it should work pretty good for this. Same thing with this cylinder. Actually, there's a little bit of rust spots on that piston skirt. Not sure if I got that lined up or not. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to see that. But there's a little bit of rust on the piston skirt. Now, the piston's aluminum, so it's not from the aluminum piston skirt. It's from the cylinder liner. And then cylinder number 3 down here actually looks super nice. So out of the 3 cylinders, we've got kind of problems that I really am not happy about because it was water in the bottom end. A little bit of rust. I'm not super concerned with that. That'll probably wear off as it runs. But overall, I'm going to try to figure this thing out. Now I've got this one in a spot where I'm going to just kind of mount the camera up, and I'm going to use the fluid evacuator and pull that oil out. Now, part of the danger of having these oils and that in the bottom end of a 2-stroke is you can actually hydro-lock the motor. Much like driving a 4-stroke engine through water and sucking water in and hydro-locking it, you can do the same thing on a 2-stroke by filling the crankcase. And as it runs, it will pump that up to the top side of the piston, hydro-lock, and break things. So I've got most of the oil out. We're actually going to use the electric starter and crank it over a few times, but before I do that, I'm actually going to put the carburetors on, partially because I've got these fuel lines out. It may help to prime that a little bit, and we're going to put the carbs on first. So we got the plugs out. Now I'll go ahead, grab my carb boots. And these come with a nice O-ring seal. Make sure everything's clean, which the sled actually is not corroded or anything, so this should work on its own. Alright, so now we got all 3 carb boots on. I've got the carburetors lined up by number, so this is number 3. We'll go ahead, this is slide for number 3. Again, I already cleaned these, so 2 out of 3 had some junk in the bottom that would have been picked up by a jet and been an issue. And I don't remember which one was which, but 2 of them definitely needed cleaned. 1 of them probably would have been fine. So that's why you should always clean carburetors, because 2 of them would have had issues. Alright, so now the carbs are on. Let's check the throttle. Make sure all 3, I'm just feeling with my finger to make sure the slides are moving up and down as they're supposed to, which they are. I'm going to go ahead and hit the kill switch. That'll turn the ignition off. And I'm just going to take a rag, kind of lay it over top of this, because as I crank this, the fluid from the bottom end should more or less come up through and yeah, kind of squirt out those spark plug holes. So the rag should stop anything that does that. The electric start, I've got a battery that seems to work. So it looks like that's going to happen, and here we go. Okay, so if any oil was going to come shooting out the top end, it should have, and it really didn't. So we should be more or less good to start this now. Also, I didn't mention that until right now, but I did take the fuel that was in this tank, drained it out, and I added about 2 gallons of gas that's mixed with a little bit of oil. So anytime that I'm starting an engine, a 2-stroke engine that hasn't been run in a while, I like to pre-mix the gas a little bit. So I pre-mixed the gas at about 100 to 1. I also do that in any sled like the beginning of the year, because sometimes you get a little bit of weirdness in an oil pump and it'll have an air bubble or something like that. And 100 to 1 is not really enough oil, but it's a whole lot better than 0. So if you've got something that maybe needs to burp an air bubble through, it helps. If you've got something that has sat for several years like this one, and you get an air pocket or something, or the oil pump doesn't take off right away, again, it's not really a great amount of oil, but it's better than nothing. So from that, I just tried the choke, and the choke lever immediately snapped off. So that's good. Yeah. Nothing wrong with that there. We'll just give it a little bit of go juice when we fire it up. Why not? So we're just going to go ahead and fire some new plugs in there. Pull these out, and usually, honestly, I just kind of look at them, make sure they don't look like they're way big or way small. You can check the gap on them if you want to, but that's your call. So I got the kill switch up. I'm going to use some pliers and just pull on the choke thing if I can get a grip on it. Okay, so choke's out. Nothing. Is it pumping gas? It smells like nasty old gasoline. So there's this little valve here that I just remembered about because I just caught it out of the corner of my eye. When it's turned like this here, it means that no fuel flows out of the tank. And when you turn it like that, then fuel flows out of the tank to the carburetors. So we'll go ahead and flip that over to the side where it flows out of the tank to the carburetors. Likely take a minute here because everything's dry. We'll hold out on the choke. Pop this fuel line back off, see if she's getting any fuel up there. Oh yeah, starting to get some fuel, so that's a good sign. Whew, it stinks. So apparently there was still some pretty nasty fuel some places in this system, because that smells pretty bad. Lost my pliers that I just used for that. Okay, hold on the choke again. Ooh, she started. And that's all we're going to run it in here for, because you can see the cloud starting to billow up. So we'll go ahead, clean this off, get it outside, and we'll fire the camera up again. Alright, so now we're back outside. Give her a little choke. Oh yeah, key. It's actually running really good. It appears as though the hand and, well, maybe not. Appears as though the warmers work. Oh yeah. Let's see if it'll move. Maybe not. Good. hard to do that and hold the camera. Well, I guess that's it. It runs, it rides. I've still got to clean the airbox up and put it back on, but this thing works as a snowmobile. I don't have very good luck, so if I were to try to ride this, it would probably make it to the most inconvenient spot possible and spit the crank out the case. Now, somebody else might buy this and run it for like 4,000 or 5,000 more miles without issue. I'm not a real big Polaris guy, but I think this is basically just kind of a wedge chassis with a different hood on it. And I know those are a nice handling, well planted chassis. And just running this around the yard, it felt pretty solid. If the motor didn't have the issues that I think it has, I would probably keep this and let other people ride it. But as it sits, I think I'm just going to put a pretty low price on it, throw it on the marketplace, and maybe somebody else can buy it and try their luck with it, or put a motor in it. I'll just make sure I put in the ad that I think it's going to need a motor and tell anybody that asks about it why that is. But as of right now, it seems to be running pretty solidly on all 3 cylinders. And yeah, hit the subscribe button, like, share, all that stuff. And I'll see you later.